Greetings and welcome to another episode of WRD Commentates while reading Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. It is Sorcerer's Stone. It is the American version, and this is not Philosopher's Stone. Sorry, I need to get the other version on here. But as you can see, we're here in the hallway of the Dursleys' house now. No, slight difference from just the gray background that we were in for the last um, commentated reading, and also different from the normal readings, which the non-commentated readings, which are out on the beaches as they have been, and in other video on the future will be just in nature, in various natural places. Apparently, I still have Neville's frog stuck in my throat. Working on that. But I think we'll be okay for reading. I've got a new microphone here. I've got a Comic-Con microphone, wireless Boom X, Boom DX, whatever it is. Was hoping to have a new lens, but I don't have a new lens. Hopefully soon, within the next week. And yeah, green screen. You can see my hands kind of fades away a little bit there as the green reflects on it. So we're here in the same place, but with a green screen instead of a gray curtain, which is just off camera, just off the edge of the green screen. And I was looking for a few backgrounds, went through a few that were related to this chapter. So this background is from doing a Google search for Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone Chapter 2, which is what I'm about to read. This is one of the things that came up. It's not the only thing that came up, but the others that were a little bit more specific to the chapter just didn't fit with my being in front of it. So I'm going with this one because it works a little bit better than, hey, there's the room, and that's where Harry Potter lives. So, anyways, so that is that. The intro, the beginnings. Except you can see how long it's been since the last time I recorded this. I believe that was the previous reaction or commentated video was November. And this is now May. I will be doing better now that I've actually started uploading. I will be more inspired to get into doing this and continuously uploading or recording and then uploading, because recording comes before uploading 99.999999% of the time, or 100% of the time. So, because we don't have time turners, but that's book 3. We're in book 1. So, but of course, because I am talking about book 3 and we're only in book 1, spoiler alert, this will the commentated readings will contain spoilers. Oh my goodness. Forgive me. Excuse me. Wouch. So expect spoilers. So if you have not read the books before, this is not the spot to learn them, to hear them for the first time. I do have non-commentated readings. If you want to still watch me reading them, go check out my nature readings. Currently beach readings, and a couple more will be on the beach. Chapter 3 will be on the beach. And we'll see what comes up after that, where I end up. But it seems I will be traveling along the coast side for a while longer. I did start. I did start. Okay, good. Yes, I did start this. That would have been a disaster. So, since this video has started, let us actually start it. Commentated reading of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, Chapter 2, The Vanishing Glass. Yes. Nearly 10 years had passed since the Dursleys had woken up to find their nephew on the front step dead. Because he was frozen, remember? He was frozen. But Privet Drive had hardly changed at all. The sun rose on the same tidy front gardens and lit up the brass number 4 on the Dursleys' front door. Ah, the rhymes. It crept into the living room, which was almost exactly the same as it had been on the night when Mr. Dursley had seen that fateful news report by the wizard news reporter about the owls. Yes. Only the photographs on them. Oh, and the other thing that happened that day when Mrs. Dursley and Mr. Dursley saw Harry on the front porch was Mrs. Dursley Petunia found out that her sister died. That her sister was killed. Her sister. And Vernon knew prior, sort of. He had an inkling, an idea that something happened to his wife's sister, and he didn't tell her. Regardless of how much they hated each other, or how much Petunia was jealous of Lily, it is still her sister. And Vernon, her husband, who knew something, didn't tell his wife that her sister was in danger, could have been injured, killed. He didn't know what entirely. He knew something was going on with his nephew and with them, but he didn't tell her that her husband or that her sister was killed, and he knew. She had to wait till the next morning, 2 days, I guess like 32 hours later, probably, because it was midnight-ish that it happened, and then he realized it midday. So there's 12 hours, okay. So and then it's 5, 6 o'clock. They're discussing 6, 7 o'clock, maybe as late as 9. They're discussing it. And then she has to wait another. Harry shows up on the porch at midnight again the next day, roughly 24 hours after his parents are killed. And then on the morning of the 2nd of November, she finds out that her sister is killed. Most of my reaction and commentating won't be this intense, but this was a big one that really, really hits hard. It's Vernon didn't tell his wife that her sister was killed, and he kind of knew. I think Petunia would have rather have heard it from Vernon than seen it in the letter that Dumbledore left behind. The man that she hated, Dumbledore, who she detested because Dumbledore didn't give her a chance to go to Hogwarts. And of course, like I said, spoilers. Spoilers. That's why this reading is not for those who have never read before. This is for those who read many times and want something deeper and intense and blah blah. So let us continue on here. like I said, most of future reactions won't be that intense. Maybe, hopefully. Only the photographs on the mantelpiece really showed how much time had passed. 10 years ago, there had been lots of pictures of what looked like a large pink beach ball wearing different colored bonnets. They put their baby boy in bonnets? Poor kid. But Dudley Dursley was no longer a baby, and thankfully no longer wearing bonnets. And now the photograph showed a large blonde boy riding his first bicycle on a carousel at the fair, playing a computer game with his father. Wow, Vernon actually played computer games with his kid? That's pretty cool. Wholesome Vernon right there. Being hugged and kissed by his mother. I should suspect so. The room held no sign at all that another boy lived in the house too. Yet Harry Potter was still there. Asleep at the moment, but not for long. His Aunt Petunia was awake, and it was her shrill voice that made the first noise of the day. Up! Get up! Now! Harry woke with a start, because that's a startling voice. His aunt rapped on the door again. Up! Up! Harry heard her walking toward the kitchen, and then the sound of the frying pan being put on the stove. Preheated for him to be able to use momentarily. He rolled onto his back and tried to remember the dream he'd been having. It had been a good one. There had been a flying motorcycle in it. He's dreaming about 10 years prior. He's dreaming about his childhood, his infancy. Somehow, some reason, having memories of being 1 year old. That's pretty cool. He had a funny feeling he'd had the same dream before. That could explain why he was having it now, if he had had it before. There's some tongue twister of words of the English language. His aunt was back outside the door. Are you up yet? She demanded. Nearly, said Harry's first words. Nearly. Remember that for the quiz later, because there will be a quiz on Carlin Brothers, Super Carlin Brothers. Harry's first words. Nearly. Well, get a move on. I want you to look after the bacon. That she already started and stuff, and it's going to put an 11-year-old in charge of cooking bacon. Yeah, nearly 11-year-old. Not quite 11 years old, and put him in charge of watching bacon. Don't know. That's a lot of oil popping and fizzing and sparking and burning. And don't you dare let it burn. I want everything to be perfect on Dudley's birthday. So if you want it to be perfect on Dudley's birthday, why are you letting the 11-year-old do it? Or nearly 11-year-old do it? Why not do it yourself? Because you're trained. You know how to do it. You're practiced. Harry groaned. What did you say? His aunt snapped through the door. Nothing. Dudley's birthday. How could he have forgotten? Well, 'cause they forget your birthday, so why should you remember theirs? Harry got slowly out of bed and started looking for socks. He found a pair under his bed. How he got underneath his bed, I don't know. Well, okay, maybe there's a little bit of space there. Let's see if I can match it up there. Yeah, there's an inch at that distance, so probably actually more like 6 inches. Okay, maybe he can look underneath his bed. He found a pair of socks underneath his bed, and after pulling a spider off of them, put them on. Harry was used to spiders. Ron's not, because the cupboard underneath the stairs where Harry lived, the cupboard underneath the stairs where Harry lived, was full of them. And I don't know if we can see a spider in this image. One of the other ones I was looking at did have spiders in it, but it didn't fit behind me. And that is where he slept. When he was dressed, he went down the hall to the kitchen. Whoop, 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 there it is. The table was almost hidden underneath all Dudley's birthday presents. Spoiled brat. Or spoiled. Not necessarily brat yet. We don't know Dudley is a brat yet. We just know we just realize that he is spoiled. It looked as though Dudley had gotten the new computer he wanted. Not a new computer in 1990? 91? 91. Okay. I was getting a new computer, or I was using a computer in 91. Well, I had an Apple IIe in 91, maybe 92, something like that. But that's pretty good. It helps the brain. It helps having a computer at a young age. In the early days of computers will certainly improve a child's brain. But then again, we are talking about Dudley. Not to mention the second television he wanted, and that's why he's not so intelligent, because those CRTs rot in his brain. And the racing bike. Exactly why Dudley wanted a racing bike was a mystery to Harry, as Dudley was very fat and hated exercise, unless, of course, it involved punching someone, because Dudley was a bully. Because Uncle Vernon didn't believe in having an imagination, so not even Dudley was allowed an imagination. Nope, no imagination, Dudley. You can't have an imagination. I don't want you having weird thoughts, Dudley. Dudley's favorite punching bag was Harry, but he couldn't often catch him. Harry didn't look it, but he was very fast. Kind of like I used to be. Used to be. Perhaps it had something to do with living in a dark cupboard, though that is definitely not why I was fast. But Harry had always been small and skinny for his age, which is why I was fast. But unrelated to the cupboard. Yeah, blah. Oof. He looked even smaller and skinnier than he really was because all he had to wear were old clothes of Dudley's, and Dudley was about 4 times bigger than he was. That's quite large. So Dudley probably, guessing Harry, 11 years old, 20-inch-ish waist. So Dudley, 80-inch waist. That's pretty big. Pretty good sized kid. Harry had a thin face, nubbly knees, black hair, and wore bright green eyes. No, he had bright green eyes, even though it doesn't say had. But yes, he had knobbly knees, black hair, and bright green eyes. Though not in the movies, of course, because Daniel Radcliffe was allergic to the contacts, which is not unusual. He wore round glasses, held together with a lot of Scotch tape. Well, not me. Because of all the times Dudley had punched him on the nose. I know what that's like. The only thing Harry liked about his own appearance was a very thin scar on his forehead that was shaped like a bolt of lightning. I just got a bump on my forehead. He had had it as long as he could remember, and the first question he could ever remember asking his Aunt Petunia was how he had gotten it. "In the car crash when your parents had died," she had said. "And don't ask questions." Don't ask questions. That was the first rule for a quiet life with the Dursleys. Uncle Vernon entered the kitchen as Harry was turning over the bacon. "Comb your hair," he barked by way of morning greeting, because combing his hair while he's cooking the bacon is sure to not get any stray hairs in the bacon. You don't want stray hairs in the bacon. And I'm sure Dudley would not consider it a perfect day if Harry's hair was in the bacon. About once a week, Uncle Vernon looked over the top of his newspaper and shouted that Harry needed a haircut. Harry must have had more haircuts than the rest of the boys in his class put together, but it made no difference. His hair simply grew that way, all over the place. Like mine if I let it down, but it's tied back so it's not all over the place. That would be cool to see Harry Potter with long hair and a long beard. There you go, Daniel. Daniel Radcliffe. Grow your hair out like mine. Come, be like me, Daniel Williams. Anyways. Ah, la 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 la. La 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 la. Harry was frying eggs by the time Dudley had arrived in the kitchen with his mother. Dudley looked a lot like Uncle Vernon. He had a large pink face, not much neck, small watery blue eyes, and thick blonde hair that lay smooth on his thick, fat head. Aunt Petunia often said that Dudley looked like a baby angel. Harry often said that Dudley looked like a pig in a wig. Yep, and that's why Dudley gets a tail. As he was just too much like a pig already. No, I refuse. I refuse to give Hagrid a southern accent like I gave the news reporter or the weatherman in my regular reading of chapter 1. No. Hagrid cannot have a southern accent. No! Don't let me do that. Okay, where was I? Harry put the plates of egg and bacon on the table, which was difficult as there wasn't much room. Dudley, because of all the presents, the 36 presents, not 37. Wait, yeah, always 36. Oh, no. Because there were 37 presents, not 36. The movie got it wrong. 36, but last year I had 37. No, this year you have 37, and we're going to go buy you 2 new ones. 2 more. But anyways, we're about to get there. Dudley, meanwhile, was counting his presents. Like I said, his face fell. 36, he said, looking up at his mother and father. That's 2 less than last year. Yeah, 37, but last year I had 38. Not 36 and last year 37, but 37 and last year 38. Don't cut Dudley short. Silly movies. Darling, you haven't counted Auntie Marge's present. See, here, it's under this big one from Mommy and Daddy. All right, 37 then, like I said. 37. This year, he has 37. Last year, he had 38. Oi! Said Dudley, going red in the face, like I am. Ah! Harry, who could see a huge Dudley tantrum coming on, began wolfing down his bacon as fast as possible in case Dudley turned over the table. Wha-boom! Like Alan Rickman does with the tea in that most epic slow motion video. If you haven't watched that, go look up, pause this, open a new tab, pull back into YouTube on that new tab and search for Alan Rickman slow motion table tea or tea table. I don't know. Alan Rickman slow motion. Go watch that. It is so epic. We'll continue. Aunt Petunia obviously scented danger too, because she said quickly, "And we'll buy you another 2 presents while we're out today. How's that, Popkin?" Popkin? 2 more presents. Is that all right? Dudley thought for a moment. It looked like hard work. Finally, he said slowly, "So I'll have 30... You counted up to 36, Dudley, and you can't count to 39? Why can you count to 36 but not to 39? 39, sweetums, said Aunt Petunia. Oh. Dudley sat down heavily and grabbed the nearest parcel. All right, then. Uncle Vernon chuckled. Little Tyke wants his money's worth, just like his capitalist father. Attaboy, Dudley. He ruffled Dudley's hair. At that moment, the telephone rang, and Aunt Petunia went to answer it, while Harry and Uncle Vernon watched Dudley unwrap the racing bike. Wrapping a bicycle, not easy. Unwrapping it, oh my. But respect to Vernon for wrapping a bike. That's bravo. Excuse me. A video camera, a remote control airplane. Ooh, he's got a drone way back in 91. Wow. It's a bit early for a drone. You know, and things existed way back then. We could have had them a lot sooner. No, we were slow. Anyways, that's a whole nother, that's a battery issue, actually. It's completely about batteries for that. Because the remote control airplane, would that have been a gas-powered airplane then? Really? Ooh. Because so that was probably a gas engine airplane or propane engine, something like that. Compressed air at the best. That's a pretty cool gift. That a remote control airplane in 91 with that's a pretty cool gift. 16 new computer games. I'm sure one of them was SimCity. SimCity 2000, possibly. That might have been 92. I don't remember. I know I was playing it around this same time. Probably Wolfenstein 3D and Myst and Kid Pix. Carmen Sandiego. Ooh. Dudley had where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? Probably for DOS. It would have probably been a DOS computer. Maybe Windows 3.1, maybe. But that'd be kind of possibly stretching it. But for sure DOS with probably where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? And a VCR. He was ripping the paper off the gold wristwatch when Aunt Petunia came back from the telephone looking both angry and worried. Bad news, Vernon. Vernon is not her uncle. Bad news, husband Vernon, she said. Mrs. Figg's broken her leg. She can't take him. She jerked her head in Harry's direction. Dudley's mouth fell open in horror. But Harry's heart gave a leap. Whoop, whoop. Every year on Dudley's birthday, his parents took Dudley and a friend out for the day to adventure parks, hamburger restaurants, or the movies. Every year, Harry was left behind with Mrs. Figg, a mad old lady who lived 2 streets away, who's a squib. She's mad because she's a squib. I mean, we all know that Filch is mad because he's a squib. So, of course, I'm sure Mrs. Figg was a bit mad that she was a squib, too. Harry hated it there. She made it that way, because if he didn't hate it, then he wouldn't have been allowed to go. Poor Harry. Poor Harry. The whole house smelled of cabbage. And, I mean, depending on the cabbage. It's cooked cabbage. And Mrs. Figg made him look at photographs of all the cats she'd ever owned. Now what? Said Aunt Petunia, looking furiously at Harry as though he'd planned this. Because he probably did. He probably influenced it. Harry knew he ought to feel sorry that Mrs. Fig had broken her leg, but it wasn't easy when he reminded himself that it would be a whole year before he had to look at Tibby's, Snowy, Mr. Paws, and Tufty again. We could phone Aunt Marge, or no. We could phone Marge, because Marge is not Vernon's sister. Marge is Vernon's sister, not his aunt. Oi, oi, oi. I'm getting all my things mixed up. Maybe the margarita before reading this wasn't the best idea, but it's made this kind of interesting, I think. We could phone Marge, Uncle Vernon said. Don't be silly, Vernon. She hates the boy, even worse than you guys do. Wow. The Dursleys often spoke about Harry like this, as though he wasn't there, or rather, as though he was something very nasty that couldn't understand them, like a slug. Poor Ron. What about, what's her name? Your friend, Yvonne. On vacation in Majorca, snapped up Petunia. You could just leave me here, Harry put in hopefully. He'd be able to watch what he wanted on television for a change, and maybe even have a go on Dudley's computer. Aunt Petunia looked as though she'd just swallowed a lemon. And come back and find the house in ruins, she snarled. I won't blow up the house, said Harry, but they weren't listening. I suppose we could take him to the zoo, said Aunt Petunia slowly, and leave him in the car. That car's new. He's not sitting in it alone. Dudley began to cry loudly. In fact, he wasn't really crying. It had been years since he really cried. But he knew that if he screwed up his face and wailed, his mother would give him anything he wanted, 'cause he's a spoiled brat. We've learned that he is a brat. Dinky Duddy Dums. Dinky Duddy Dum. Don't cry. Mummy won't let him spoil your special day, she cried, flinging her arms around him. I don't want him to come, Dudley yelled between huge pretend sobs. He always spoils everything. He shot Harry a nasty grin through the gap in his mother's arms. Just then, the doorbell rang. Oh, good Lord, they're here, said Aunt Petunia frantically. And a moment later, Dudley's best friend, Pierce Polkiss. Pierce, son of the guy who kisses poles, walked in with his mother. Pierce was a scrawny boy with a face like a rat. He usually was the one who held people's arms behind their backs, while Dudley hit them. A little bit of rhyming, a little bit of poetry there. Dudley stopped pretending to cry at once. Half an hour later, Harry couldn't believe his luck. He was sitting in the back of the Dursleys' car with Pierce and Dudley on the way to the zoo for the first time in his life. Oh, Mama's taking us to the zoo tomorrow, zoo tomorrow, zoo tomorrow. Mama's taking us to the zoo tomorrow, and we could stay all day. We're going to the zoo, 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 and Harry comes too. We're going to the zoo, 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 and Harry comes too. I believe, who was that? Was that, I think that song was, Greg Brown. Yeah, I think that's Greg Brown did that song. I could be wrong. Could be Raffi. Raffi might have done that. So, Greg Brown, Raffi, or Taj Mahal, one of them. But either way, I suggest looking up that song so you can hear it properly and not as bad as I sing it. His aunt and uncle hadn't been able to think of anything else to do with him, but before they'd left, Uncle Vernon had taken Harry aside. "I'm warning you now. I'm warning you now, boy," he had said, putting his large purple face up close to Harry's. "Any funny business, anything at all, and you'll be in that cupboard from now until Christmas." Which, considering it is mid-July, that's a long time. Wow. "I'm not going to do anything," said Harry. "Honestly." But Uncle Vernon didn't believe him. No one ever did. The problem was, strange things often happened around Harry, and it was just no good telling the Dursleys he didn't make them happen. Once, Aunt Petunia, tired of Harry coming back from the barber's looking as though he hadn't been at all, had taken a pair of kitchen scissors and cut his hair. Kitchen scissors. Not craft scissors, not hair scissors, not stage scissors, not whatever. Kitchen scissors. There's differences between all those kinds of scissors, apparently. Because I've actually lost friends over a meme regarding scissors and joking about that meme regarding scissors. That the friends took it way too seriously and got offended that I made a commentated joke about kitchen scissors and compared to their fancier scissors. And yeah. Anyways, that's neither here nor there, but it is everywhere. Petunia cut his hair so short he was almost bald, except for his bangs, which she left to hide that horrible scar. Dudley had laughed himself silly at Harry, who spent a sleepless night imagining school the next day, where he was already laughed at for his baggy clothes and taped glasses. But at least he actually had glasses. Vernon and Petunia actually cared enough to where when Harry started complaining about blurry vision, they went and bought him glasses. They took him to the optometrist and bought Harry glasses. Maybe they didn't replace them when they were broken, like good parents would do, but they still bought him glasses. So there's a little bit of wholesome Vernon, wholesome Petunia. They bought Harry glasses. And they obviously taught him how to read. But there's another one, too, that will come later that's really, really huge. Huge thing, huge kindness that Petunia, I'm assuming Petunia, must have given Harry as a child. A huge joy, we shall say. But that comes in book 4. You have to wait a bit. Quite a bit through more books. The next morning, however, he had gotten up to find his hair exactly as it had been before Aunt Petunia had sheared it off. He had been given a week in his cupboard for this, which means he wasn't always in his cupboard. Not always. Just when he needed to be punished. Even though he had tried to explain that he couldn't explain how it had grown back so quickly. "I don't know. It was like magic." Another time, Aunt Petunia had been trying to force him into a revolting old sweater of Dudley. Oops, I hit the button. There we go. Petunia had been trying to force him into a revolting old sweater of Dudley's, brown with orange puffballs. A Hufflepuff sweater. Yay, Hufflepuff! The harder she tried to pull it over his head, the smaller it seemed to become, until finally it might have fitted a hand puppet, but certainly wouldn't fit Harry, who is a Gryffindor, like me. No, sorry, I'm not quite a Hufflepuff. I am actually a Griffin Puff. I get both. I could be in either house, Gryffindor or Hufflepuff. Oh. Yeah, let's get a little more comfortable here. Again, in the hallway of the Dursleys. Let's see. The harder she tried to pull it over his head, the smaller it seemed to become until finally it might have fitted a hand puppet. Oh, I already read that. Oh my goodness. Oh, excuse me. Ouchers. Ow, that one kind of burned. Aunt Petunia had decided it must have shrunk in the wash while she was putting it on him. To his great relief, Harry wasn't punished. Because she knew it wouldn't do any good. Because she knew the dangers of what was going on. Petunia was recognizing that something was going on with her nephew, with her sister's son. She saw it. She knew. On the other hand, he'd gotten into terrible trouble for being found on the roof of the school kitchens. Dudley's gang had been chasing him as usual when, as much to Harry's surprise as anyone else's, there he was, sitting on the chimney. The Dursleys had received a very angry letter from Harry's headmistress telling them Harry had been climbing school buildings. But all he'd tried to do, as he shouted at Uncle Vernon through the locked door of his cupboard, was jump behind the big trash cans outside the kitchen doors. Harry supposed that the wind must have caught him mid-jump. What is that? Mary Poppins. You send it flying up there, all at once you're lighter than air. With your feet on a chimney, you're a bird in flight. With your fist holding tight to the wand of your wand. I don't know. That's got away from me. But today, nothing was going to go wrong. It was even worth being with Dudley and Pierce to be spending the day somewhere that wasn't school, his cupboard, or Mrs. Figg's cabbage-smelling living room. While he drove, Uncle Vernon complained to Aunt Petunia. Uncle Vernon complained to Aunt Petunia. He liked to complain about things. People at work, Harry, the council, Harry, the bank, and Harry were just a few of his favorite subjects. Yes, J.K. Rowling, we know Vernon likes to complain about Harry. Tell us 4 times, why don't you? 1, 2, 3. 3 times. 3 times he complains about Harry. That's a reference to my dad, which none of you will get, so don't worry about it. My dad is just silly. 3 times! 3 times! 3. 3 of them. This morning, it was motorcycles. Roaring along like maniacs, the young hoodlums, he said as a motorcycle overtook them like they were standing still. I had a dream about a motorcycle, said Harry, remembering suddenly. It was flying. Oh, remembering. Uncle Vernon nearly crashed into the car in front. He turned right around in his seat and yelled at Harry, turning around in the driver's seat. Whoa, boy! Yeah, no wonder you nearly crashed. You're surprised not only the car in front of you, but the car to the side because they're British. So it's the car to that way. oncoming traffic. Because you'd turn around that direction instead of in America or in the U.S. and Canada and I think Mexico, turning around that way. And I don't know what other Central or Southern American countries are on the right side instead of the British way of being on the wrong side. We're on the right side. Be on the right side of the road. Not the wrong side of the road. But anyways. Motorcycles don't fly. Whoa. Dudley and Pierce sniggered. I know they don't, said Harry. It was only a dream. But he wished he hadn't said anything. If there was one thing the Dursleys, not just Vernon, but all three of them, hated even more than his asking questions. It was his talking about anything, acting in a way it shouldn't. So Dudley was not allowed to talk about things acting in a way that it shouldn't. Dudley, no, Dudley. No matter if it was in a dream or even a cartoon. So no cartoons for the kids. Nope, no cartoons for you boys. They seemed to think he might get dangerous ideas. So no Looney Tunes for Dudley or Harry. They don't get to watch Looney Tunes. Those poor deprived children. Deprived of Looney Tunes. I feel bad for them. I really do feel bad for these kids being deprived of Looney Tunes. And so many other great shows. Probably deprived of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Oh, and Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. And Reboot, but that was a few years later. But what else? The Smurfs. Hey, they weren't allowed to watch the Smurfs. Maybe not even Land Before Time. And Aquarius. And mark down in the comments below if you remember Aquarius from the 80s. I will love you forever if you remember Aquarius. That was one of my favorite cartoons in the 80s. At least I think that's what it was called. The theme song was the Dawning of Age of Aquarius. Underwater with a yellow pet platypus type thingy. Anyways, if you know, you know. If you don't know, I feel sorry for you. It's as bad as not knowing Looney Tunes, maybe. It was a very sunny Saturday, and the zoo was crowded with families. The Dursleys bought Dudley and Pierce large chocolate ice creams at the entrance, and then, because the smiling lady in the van had asked Harry what he wanted before they could hurry him away, they bought him a cheap lemon ice pop. Lemon. It wasn't bad either, Harry thought, licking it as they watched a gorilla scratching its head. The gorilla, scratching its head, probably wondering what the lemon ice pop tasted like. Or wondering why Harry only had a lemon ice pop while Dudley and Pierce had chocolate. But the gorilla, who looked remarkably like Dudley, except that it had blonde hair. Or except that it wasn't blonde. Made that mistake in the reading too. Harry had the best morning he'd had in a long time. He was careful to walk a little way apart from the Dursleys so that Dudley and Pierce, who were starting to get bored with the animals by lunchtime, wouldn't fall back on their favorite hobby of hitting him. They ate in the zoo restaurant, and when Dudley had a tantrum because his knickerbocker glory, his underwear glory, didn't have enough ice cream on top, Uncle Vernon bought him another one, and Harry was allowed to finish the first. Ooh, Harry got most of a knickerbocker glory. Harry got most of a underwear glory, because knickerbockers are apparently a type of underwear in Britain. Underwear glory ice cream. Harry felt afterward that he should have known it was all too good to last. After lunch, they went to the reptile house. It was cool and dark in there, with lit windows all along the walls. Behind the glass, all sorts of lizards and snakes were crawling and slithering over bits of wood and stone. Dudley and Pierce wanted to see huge poisonous cobras and thick, man-crushing pythons. Dudley quickly found the largest snake in the place. It could have wrapped its body twice around Uncle Vernon's car and crushed it into a trash can. But at the moment, it didn't look in the mood. In fact, it was fast asleep. Dudley stood with his nose pressed against the glass, staring at the glistening brown coils. "Make it move," he whined at his father. Uncle Vernon tapped on the glass, but the snake didn't budge. "Do it again," Dudley ordered. Uncle Vernon rapped the glass smartly with his knuckles, but the snake just snoozed on. "This is boring," Dudley moaned. He shuffled away. Harry moved in front of the tank and looked intently at the snake. He wouldn't have been surprised if it had died of boredom itself. No company except stupid people drumming their fingers on the glass trying to disturb it all day long. It was worse than having a cupboard as a bedroom, where the only visitor was Aunt Petunia hammering on the door to wake you up. At least he got to visit the rest of the house, except when he was stuck in his cupboard for months at a time. Months in that little tiny space. That little tiny space. The snake suddenly opened its beady eyes. Slowly, very slowly, it raised its head until its eyes were on a level with Harry's. It winked. I don't know which one. Which eye did it wink with? Harry stared. Then he looked quickly around to see if anyone was watching. They weren't. He looked back at the snake and winked too. The snake jerked its head toward Uncle Vernon and Dudley, then raised its eyes to the ceiling. It gave Harry a look that said quite plainly, "I get that all the time." "I know," Harry murmured through the glass, though he wasn't sure the snake could hear him. "It must be really annoying." The snake nodded vigorously. "Where do you come from, anyway?" Harry asked. The snake jabbed its tail at a little sign next to the glass. Harry peered at it. Boa constrictor. Brazil. Was it nice there? The boa constrictor jabbed its tail at the sign again, and Harry read on. This specimen was bred in the zoo. Oh, I see. So you've never been to Brazil? As the snake shook its head, a deafening shout behind Harry made both of them jump. The snake jumped? The snake was startled by the sound? Dudley! Oh, oh, man. Dudley! Mr. Dursley! Come and look at this snake. You won't believe what it's doing. Dudley came waddling towards them as fast as he could. Out of the way, you! He said, punching Harry in the ribs. Caught by surprise, Harry fell hard on the concrete floor. What came next happened so fast no one saw how it happened. 1 second, Pierce and Dudley were leaning right up close to the glass. The next, they had leapt back with howls of horror. Not fallen in, they leapt backwards. Ah, itchy, 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 itchy. Harry sat up and gasped. The glass front of the boa constrictor's tank had vanished. The great snake was uncoiling itself rapidly, slithering out onto the floor. People throughout the reptile house screamed and started running for the exits. As the snake slid swiftly past him, Harry could have sworn a low, hissing voice said, "Brazil, here I come. Thanks, amigo." The keeper of the reptile house was in shock. "But the glass," he kept saying. "Where did the glass go?" The zoo director himself made Aunt Petunia a cup of strong, sweet tea, while he apologized over and over again. Pierce and Dudley could only gibber. As far as Harry had seen, the snake hadn't done anything except snap playfully at their heels as it passed. But by the time they were all back in Uncle Vernon's car, Dudley was telling them how it had nearly bitten off his leg, while Pierce was swearing it had tried to squeeze him to death. But worst of all was Pierce calming down enough to say, "Harry, you were talking to it, weren't you?" Uncle Vernon waited until Pierce was safely out of the house before starting on Harry. He was so angry he could hardly speak. "Go, cupboard, stay, no meals," before he collapsed into a chair and Aunt Petunia had to run and get him a large brandy. Harry lay in his dark cupboard much later, wishing he had a watch. He didn't know what time it was, and he couldn't be sure the Dursleys were asleep yet. Until they were, he couldn't risk sneaking into the kitchen for some food. He'd lived with the Dursleys for almost 10 years. 10 miserable years. As long as he could remember. Ever since he'd been a baby and his parents had died in that car crash. He couldn't remember being in the car when his parents had died. But sometimes, when he strained his memory during long hours in his cupboard, he came up with a strange vision, a blinding flash of green light, and a burning pain on his forehead. This, he supposed, was the crash, though he couldn't imagine where all the green light had come from. Really? You couldn't figure out that the green light in a car crash might not have been a traffic light? You know, a green traffic light at night? There would have been green light because probably the vehicle that crashed into you, in big quotes, the vehicle that crashed into your car that you were in, ran the red light, or maybe James ran the red light, which would be kind of interesting. James runs a red light, and Harry uses Expelliarmus, which is a red light, and Voldemort crashed into the Potters, and Voldemort uses Avada Kedavra, which is a green light. So that's the green light hitting their red light. Oh, another little thing that probably few others have actually made that connection. Probably because it's not actually a connection and it's just something in my own mind, and I'm sure JK didn't think about that. But maybe she did. Maybe that's why Avada Kedavra is a green light and Expelliarmus is a red light. Or at least, yeah. Expelliarmus is a red light as well as Stupefy. They're both red lights. Stunning is a red light. But killing is green. Because killing requires envy, and envy is green. Envy and hatred. Like the Grinch. This, he supposed, was the crash. Though he couldn't, yes. He couldn't remember his parents at all, because he was only 1 year old. Let's see. He was born at the end of July, so that's August, September, October. So 15 months old. Yeah, you don't remember much when you're only 15 months old. His aunt and uncle never spoke about them, and of course he was forbidden to ask questions. There were no photographs of them in the house. When he had been younger, Harry had dreamed and dreamed of some unknown relation coming to take him away, but it had never happened, because you're still only barely 11 years old, and that's not very long. The Dursleys were his only family. Yet sometimes he thought, or maybe hoped, that strangers in the street seemed to know him. Very strange strangers they were, too. A tiny man in a violet top hat had bowed to him once, while out shopping with Aunt Petunia and Dudley. Just his top hat was violet. So Doge figured out how to dress a little bit better through the years. A little more subtly. Ow. After asking Harry furiously if he knew the man, Aunt Petunia had rushed them out of the shop without buying anything. A wild-looking old woman dressed in green, a Slytherin, had waved merrily at him on a bus once. Had waved merrily at him once on a bus. Not twice, but once. A bald man in a very long purple coat had actually shaken his hand in the street the other day, and then walked away without a word. Could it have been the same man in a purple coat that greeted Vernon, that told Vernon, "You should be happy today, too. Even muggles like yourself should be joyous, should be celebrating, for you know who is gone at last." I think that's the voice I gave for Doge, though that's definitely not Doge's voice. The weirdest thing about all these people was the way they seemed to vanish the second Harry tried to get a closer look. At school, Harry had no one. Everybody knew that Dudley's gang hated that odd Harry Potter in his baggy old clothes and broken glasses, and nobody liked to disagree with Dudley's gang. Because Dudley's a bully and bullied anybody who disagreed with him. And so if you disagreed with Dudley, you were going to get bullied. And nobody likes to be bullied. Dudley is a bully because he was denied an imagination. Poor Dudley. Not allowed an imagination, not allowed cartoons, but still fawned upon. And oh my gosh, my itchy nose. And then seeing Vernon bullying Harry through the years, it totally inspires Dudley to bully others, because Vernon sets the example You know, if the father is a bully, the kid's gonna be a bully. And then someone like Harry or me ends up being the victim of those bullies and just wants to, well, we won't go there because, yeah. Anyways, I might sneeze again. Not kill my microphone, my sneezes. Oh man, I'm near a whole bunch of plants that are very allergenic, parked outside them. But yeah, and it's windy, and it's the spring, so pollen and allergies have been a nightmare the last 2 months. It's one of the reasons it's been actually so slow in recording these, but I'm trying to get on better, trying to do more. Again, like I said, hopefully actually starting to upload these will encourage me to record more, and we will continue with next time chapter 3. I think I know where I'm going to film it, shoot it, record it. It's not film, obviously, because film is old and long gone. Though Dudley's video camera was film. Yep, Dudley got a film video camera. Wonder what he filmed with that camera of his. Don't know. Be interesting to ask J.K. Rowling that question. What did Dudley film with his cine camera? I want to know. I'm curious. If you have ideas, if you have thoughts of theories of what he might have done, leave it down below. Leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think Dudley's cinematography style was like. And if you think Dudley may have, in his later career, become a cinematographer because of being gifted a camera at such a young age. So that's that. Go watch chapter 1 of this. Go watch my normal readings. Currently, chapters 1 and 2 are on the beach. That's what's uploaded so far. And in the future, there will be more beaches and other inland places that are not quite so beachy, and greatness, and other backgrounds that we will find ourselves in while reading the commentaries and stuff. So, yeah, thank you. I hope this channel blows up and becomes popular. I hope a lot of people come and watch this and join me and discuss Harry Potter with me. Oh man, because I like Harry Potter. It's good stuff. It keeps me sane. I should probably do a video discussing my history with Harry Potter. What brought me into this world, this magical world that we all love. So with that, thank you for watching. Thank you for joining me. Please subscribe, hit the like button down below, and join me for the rest of this wonderful wizarding world and whatever else I do in the future. I'm editing a reaction for Fantastic Beasts, Secrets of Dumbledore. Yes, Secrets of Dumbledore I did a reaction for already. And no, was not in the theater. But Blade Runner, unfortunately, YouTube says I was violating copyright with that video, so I don't have Blade Runner to upload the reaction to watching Blade Runner for the first time. So this channel will have more than just reading Harry Potter. I will have movie reactions, TV show reactions. Loki is one of the ones that I'm doing. Have to edit, and I will be doing Carlin Brothers quizzes soon. I will be uploading. I've recorded a few Carlin Brothers quizzes. I will be uploading them shortly. The things are through my head. Anyways, thank you again. I know it takes a long time to end these videos, but we shall do so now. Oh, maybe